So shout out to the people who in martial arts use the belt system for everything, even when it's not a belt system for that martial art. So I was in the black belt comment section, of course. I need to stop doing that. But usually there's a lot of good folks in there, most of the time. But I encountered some hipster that wanted to school me when I made a joke, and he missed the whole point. So in the comment section, I basically said how funny it is that I said the irony of someone in Tai Chi wanting people to call him a Shifu because they got a black belt. And I just thought that was hilarious. And a lot of people got it, but it obviously flew over someone's head because he was triggered. And he was like, he said, I guess it's just as funny as people thinking that only martial arts to teach you how to fight are relevant. He said something snarky like that. I'm like, dude, I said, you really missed the whole point. I said, I'm not going against, martial arts that don't teach you how to fight or whatever. That's a separate subject. But I said the irony was two parts. I said the first part was the fact that you want people to call you Shifu or teacher or whatever just with a black belt, which doesn't happen in most conventional belt systems. You usually need to be at least a second degree or higher before you're considered an instructor. Then the other part of the irony was the fact that you're using a belt system in traditional Chinese martial arts where there isn't any. And so he tried to move the goalposts and say, well, this and that and stuff about, well, the belts show you how the ranking is, and it's a good way of doing this and that. And I'm like, dude, save it. I was like, using belts in systems where there aren't any belts is a kind of a red flag that you're dealing with a McDojo. And he tried to say, well, I guess Kung Lee and all of them are training in McDojos too, because that's his roots. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Just because he took karate does not mean he's in a McDojo. I was like, we're not gonna play those games. And most people got it, and we kind of went back and forth respectfully about it. But he clearly didn't understand the fact that there are martial arts, especially for people who traveled outside of the U.S. that don't use belts. And I made the comparison. I said it's just like the gentrified Muay Thai, which I've talked about in the past. I'm gonna throw that link up. But just like even in gentrified Muay Thai now, you got people trying to use belts or something akin to the belt system. And Muay Thai is all about the effectiveness at fighting, because in Thailand they will fight literally every week. So they will mostly do light sparring for their training on top of all the other methods that they use to train, and they would just fight every week. That's how they became effective. But here, where you can't really fight like that, like you have to concentrate more on sparring and training methods to become effective. But at no point was there time where you rated your effectiveness through belts or arm bracelets or t-shirts or whatever you want to use over here. That's just BS. And so he compared that to MMA. I'm like, dude, I was like, let's stick on point here. I said, I'm not talking about MMA. I said, that's a completely different subject. I said, I'm talking about Muay Thai. And I said, and MMA doesn't use belts either. It's not a style per se, which I've talked about in the past as well. I'll put that above. But he didn't know what he was talking about. And one guy even commented, he's like, dude, are they really using belts in Tai Chi? I was like, yeah, unfortunately. Case in point, my father, like, he literally, and it did embarrass me. He literally go up to people and tell people he's a Tai Chi Shifu because he has a black belt. I'm like, I wish he would stop saying that. Because again, in authentic Tai Chi, there's no belts. And people want to say, well, they use sashes. No, the sash is just another way of saying belt, but making it trying to sound more Chinese, like, well, we have sashes. That's the same, right? That's the same fucking thing. Like, please, like,
Sounds kind of zesty just for a grown man.
It is a little zesty, but and what was disheartening about it was from a school that I wanted to go to when I was younger, Dennis Brown Kung Fu. Like he had some world renown back in the 90s. I really wanted to train with him because he taught Shaolin Kung Fu, and my father went there, and mind you, he didn't start training until his late 40s, and by his 50s got his black belt or whatever, black sash, I don't know, and wanted to be addressed as Shifu. He actually told some little random white kid who was in his karate dogi at a restaurant. He's like, yeah. He said, oh, you do karate? I do martial arts too. I'm a Shifu because I have a black belt in Tachi. I'm like, oh, that kid doesn't give a fuck. I don't even give a fuck. Like, I was like, it's a good thing he was a respectful kid. Like, he was just like, okay. Kid didn't give a fuck. I was like, you don't realize how he's embarrassed himself. On top of that, he never trains. I've literally never seen him train. The only reason I even know that he does it is because I went to the school where he trains at, and I seen all the pictures of him, getting awards or whatever, and the weapons and stuff he has around the house. But I've literally never seen him train anytime I go over his house. Like, never. Like, you can't, like, how are you an instructor and you don't even practice? Like, I mean, granted, it's bullshit anyway, and you couldn't do Tai Chi to save your motherfucking life on the street. Like, I'm sorry, if you're in East Baltimore, Tai Chi ain't saving your ass. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. But no, I'm gonna take this rant to an end, but it's embarrassing. The American martial arts system needs to change, because making everything resemble like Japanese and Japanese and Korean karate systems is dated, and it's pretty déclassé to have people training in things like MMA, Muay Thai, even traditional Chinese martial arts or traditional Southeast Asian martial arts, and still using a belt system. Now, I do see in modern Arnis now that they use a belt system, but they chose to do that over there to systematize it, because in traditional Filipino martial arts there wasn't very much organization, so naturally they modeled it after stuff that already is in place. That's different. But with other martial arts where there actually was like organization to it, there was no reason to implement another system on top of it. So if someone tells you they do kung fu and got a black belt in it, I wouldn't train with them. I'm sorry. You can train with who you like, but I wouldn't do it. Alright guys, but I'm gonna bring this rant to an end. This is just another instance of McDojos. But if you guys want to train traditional martial arts, probably go somewhere where you've done some research first. If you want to do Muay Thai, there's a plethora of Muay Thai gyms everywhere. I would caution you to not take Muay Thai from a place where the background isn't Muay Thai, but places like Kempo and stuff like that. Like, if those places are like Kempo or karate or whatever, even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and not Muay Thai first, they're probably not good Muay Thai places. Alright, but I'm signing off.